so fucking good I should kill you.
So I recently caught that video of Stanley Tucci making his lockdown Negroni, an actor who's known for his love and enthusiasm for food, and it made me flash back to Tucci's directorial debut, the 1996 indie tragicomedy Big Night, a film that took America by the scruff of the neck and in the spirit of true culinary discovery shoved forkfuls of delicious timpano into its mouth. Although Tucci was starting to see some success in Hollywood during the early 90s, he would become disenfranchised with the roles he was being offered as an Italian-American actor, villains that capitalized all too often on the otherness of his Italian ethnicity.
I think I was dissatisfied with, number one, being someone of a specific ethnicity. You get typecast. They always want you either to play the heavy or someone who's a little bit off.
So he basically teams up with his fellow actor and high school friend Campbell Scott, and they decide to co-create their own independent feature. Tucci and his cousin Joe Tropiano had been tossing around this script for years, a passion project that was mainly inspired by the pair's rich Italian-American heritage. So this little indie film about a struggling Italian restaurant gets made, and to everybody's surprise, it's a huge success, picking up a nomination for the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance and grossing about 14 million worldwide. Not only did Big Night receive massive critical success at the time, but it tends to be looked back on today as the defining food movie for many people. We followed Primo and Secondo, these brothers from Calabria, running an Italian restaurant called Charades in New Jersey during the 1950s. The pair's dedication to bringing sophisticated and authentic Italian cuisine to America hasn't really worked out so well, with the majority of their American clientele kind of unwilling to experiment outside of spaghetti meatballs.
But all main courses come with spaghetti.
For some, yes, but you see, risotto is rice, so it is the starch, and it doesn't go really with pasta.
Order a side of spaghetti, that's all.
The spaghetti comes without meatballs.
There are no meatballs with the spaghetti?
No, sometimes spaghetti likes to be alone.
We see that they're running out of money, that the bank's going to foreclose. So Secondo, the younger brother, reaches out to his friend and competitor, Ian Holm's flashy but violently unpredictable Pascal. Pascal's is the immensely popular Italian restaurant next door, and it's really embraced this kind of cheap American appropriation of Italian food, the kind of food that Primo angrily chastises as the self-obliging rape of their own culture.
Do you know what goes on in that man's restaurant every night? Rape! Rape! That is what goes on in that place every night! The rape of cuisine!
Although Pascal declines to help them financially, he does offer to get Louis Prima, this happening New York jazz artist at the time, to come visit Paradise and hopefully jumpstart the restaurant's popularity with a bit of publicity. So Secondo and Primo begin preparations for their big night, an on-the-house spread of their most elaborate and expensive dishes, and ultimately the last shot they have at saving their business. So the world of Big Night is this booming post-war America that's sold across the world as the land of opportunity. It drew in waves of South Italian immigrants hoping to escape the famine and widespread unemployment in their homeland. These Italian immigrants were scornfully considered by the press as invading foreigners, facing discrimination and ultimately more unemployment. The Italian characters in the film are all imbued with this sense of displacement. This idea is accentuated from the film's very first shot of Cristiano, the restaurant's mute and introspective assistant chef, looking out to sea. The opening credits roll over this fingerstyle folk music that instantly remind us of rural Italy. And for Cristiano, strong familial bonds, a rich culture, and a sense of community that, from the New Jersey shorelines, seems pretty distant and belittled as foreign. Primo and Secondo live together, away from their families, sharing a pretty miserable one-bedroom flat above the restaurant. The film mainly takes place at night, the shadowy cinematography of their desolate neighborhood, nodding to the post-war urban loneliness of Edward Hopper's Nighthawks. One could argue that Primo and Secondo's relationship offers two different reactions to the Italian-American experience. Primo, played by Tony Shalhoub, is the uncompromising artist, the chef blessed with a talent and skill that his American clientele is neither willing or ready to understand.
Just make me the side of the spaghetti, please. for the lady with the risotto. What?
Why?
She likes starch. I don't know. Come on. Bitch. I'm making myself. What are these people in America? I need to talk to her.
It's pretty hard to imagine an America that isn't instantly synonymous with Italian food, of trendy New York restaurants specializing in ludicrously expensive North Italian cuisine. Italian food didn't really gain this kind of prestigiousness until the 80s and 90s, when second and third generation Italian Americans, like Tucci's family, began moving up into the middle class. Primo, like many Italian immigrants, has found it difficult to assimilate into America's money-driven society, that he sees as kind of devoid of the community and rich food culture of Italy. Secondo, played by Tucci, is the maitre d'. He's the front guy, smoothing over things outside with the customers, and has kind of embraced his new American surroundings. Unlike Primo, his English is near perfect, seemingly at the cost of his own Italian.
C'è bisogno di più sale.
What?
More salt.
He's well dressed, sporting the newest fashions. He has an American girlfriend, and ultimately believes in America's advert for capitalist self-made wealth, that he covets like the new shiny model of Cadillac, the ultimate American signifier of success.
Because I know in Italy you work hard and there is nothing. But here you work hard and right? I know. But, hey, baby, that's why we all come here, eh? It's the land of fucking opportunity, right?
Secondo's inner conflict kind of drives the film. He's hesitant of this very American mentality of the customer is right at all costs, that essentially prioritizes ignorance over Primo's own artistry.
A guy goes out to eat in the evening after a long day in the office, whatever. You don't want on his plate something that he has to look and think, what the fuck is this? What you want is, hey, steak. This is a steak. I like steak.
But on the other hand, the enterprising and realistic side of him is tempted by Pascal's commercial success.
Risotto costs us a lot. We have to charge more. So, I think take it away.
Sure. Good. Maybe instead we could put, what do they call it? You know, it's come si dice? Hot dog? Hot dog? Hot dog! Yeah, hot dogs. I think people would like that.
We witness the inner contradictions of Secondo, a man seemingly caught between two cultural systems of value. He, like many Italian immigrants at the time, is seeing a woman outside of his faith, Phyllis, played by Minnie Driver. We see his difficulty embracing the casualness of American sex, insistent that he and Phyllis should wait till marriage, ashamed of his inability to provide for her.
Oh, so it's about finances.
Well,
it's about money.
No, Phyllis, it's not about money, okay? And don't make it sound like that. Don't make it like, okay? It's not like that.
However, in the true fashion of a sacrilegious American bachelor, he sees Pascal's wife Gabriella as his mistress, ultimately exploiting her for her access to cheap booze that they can sell at the restaurant. Paradise and Pascal's are kind of placed in visual contrast with one another. The pure whites of Paradise's elegant but shabby, authentic Italian interiors, its small, modest, run-down kitchen brimming with character, contrasting with Pascal's, an underground grotto shrouded in darkness, the sleazy reds of leather sofas and neon advertisements out front. The site Food in Italy interprets these kind of differing visual depictions in the context of Italian Catholicism. Heaven versus hell, paradise versus underground, white versus red, and integrity versus manipulation. The filmmakers really imbued the restaurant and its key players with an amazing sense of realism. Tucci and Tropiano were really unafraid to write scenes of no consequential dialogue, long takes of cooking scenes that show off Tucci and Shalhoub's exceptional acting. Their every gesture feels skilled, but with this kind of rough naturalism that really makes you buy into the fact that these two are experienced chefs. In his review of this film, Roger Ebert suggests that Big Night is not just about food as a subject, but as a language. It's the language by which Primo, awkward and unfamiliar with the English language, is able to finally express his affection for Alison Janey's Anne. It's the language by which the neighbourhood guests have been brought together in community that Primo and Secondo would likely have been used to back home. We watch rather than hear their delighted conversation, drowned out by the euphoric and quintessentially Italian songs of Claudio Villa. Title cards that time-stamp scenes into different courses, the chaos of the kitchen, the pair struggling to read ancient handwritten family recipes, assumingly passed through the generations, the anxious, almost spiritual preparation of the timpano. Tucci's mother actually provided the recipes for the film, which I've left in the description if anyone wants to try their hand at seafood risotto. It's this kind of stuff that provides Big Night with a real sense of authenticity. Judith Weinrum asserts that the secret of the film's success is how Tucci and Tropiano turned to their family background, to Sunday dinners, insights that would have been near impossible to replicate through research or study. I'm gonna get into the ending now, so consider this my spoiler warning. By the end of the night, Louis Prima, to Secondo's massive disappointment, has failed to arrive. We're reminded of something Pascal said earlier in the evening when he and Gabriella arrived.
Look at that goddamn thing.
It's nice, right?
He's the last of fucking supper.
He's not wrong, and in fact, he's basically Judas, as Gabriella reveals that his promise was completely false. Just this unscrupulous business strategy to put the brothers out of business so they'd come work for him. We get these little hints at his true nature throughout the film. His alignment with the grotto's satanic visual undertones, or a tyrannicism that's teased in random and violent outbursts. A chef running from his restaurant on fire, another visual reference to hell. We see the brothers' climactic fight on the beach as Prima reveals a job offer in Italy, rallying against what living in America has reduced them to, what it has done to Secondo, corrupted by an obsession with wealth and a willingness to exploit people.
Sei proprio marcio, Secondo! Che vuoi stare qui? Questo posto! Questo posto! Questo posto ci mangia vivi!
But we also see Secondo's side, that despite Primo's genius, he's pretty much unwilling to accept the reality of their situation.
Do they think they're so simple, huh? Do you think it is just like this and like that? And that's all it is? And no c'è niente nel centro? Is that what you think? No! Is that what you think? No! Tu stai nella cucina con la testa fra le nuvole, così! We were dying, and I did for 2 years! I have been doing it all!
The toll that being Primo's mediator to the real world has taken on Secondo. An idea that's cleverly referenced throughout the film in their dynamic between chef and maitre d', embodying the inevitable tensions between art and its dissemination.
You want to talk to him? Okay, good, fine. I'm sick of this every fucking night, okay? Do you want to talk to him? Alright, good. Okay, here we go. Okay. No, she's a Philistine. I'm not gonna talk to her. She don't understand anyway.
And then the film just ends on a pretty tragic note. We're left to assume that the restaurant goes under, that Phyllis leaves, that Gabrielle may leave Pascal. The euphoric Big Night has in hindsight become Paradise's Last Supper. The final scene is a single 10-minute shot with no consequential dialogue, in which Secondo prepares breakfast for his brother and Cristiano. Secondo puts his hand over Primo's and he reciprocates for a moment, and then the pair go back to eating their breakfast in silence. There's something about the solemnness in the exchange of their embrace that suggests Primo will go back to Italy on his own. It reminds me again of what Roger Ebert said about food being a language in the film. Secondo's breakfast, he prepares Primo a wordless apology, lovingly reciprocated, as each seems to share in a mutual understanding of each other's difference. Food in Big Night is not just the subject of slow-motion food porn, but the language in which the brothers express their bond. By today's standards, the film's exploration of food culture and the relationship between art and commerce is interesting. Italian food has been appropriated and diluted by big business on an international scale. Massive dining chains dressed in a simulacrum of Italianness have homogenized our high street restaurants. Many seem to embody the soulless financial opportunism of Pascal, not the restaurateur but the businessman.
You are nothing. I'm a businessman. I'm anything I need to be at any time.
But in reaction to this, it seems, the inverse has happened. In his article, How Big Night Helped Kick Off an American Dining Revolution, Matt Gross discusses the changes that have occurred in the ways we think about food, how we've become obsessed, for better or worse, with this question of authenticity. Who among us isn't willing to travel to Camden or Soho to pay a bit extra for something incredible they've only seen on Instagram? I like to think that if Paradise opened today, it might stand more of a chance. Still, we'll always have its last big night to look back on. I'm just glad that, for however briefly, we got to see Tucci's timpano in all its full glory.